Hello, traders. Welcome to another episode of our weekly analysis and weekly forecast. As you can see today, I'm recording on a Thursday, so by the time you're receiving this video, we will not have factored in the news event or the NFP, okay? So that is the only news that we will not have accounted for because I'm recording on a Thursday at around 11, almost 12 midnight, yeah? And the reason for that is because I'm not going to be in for the weekend. So I just decided to do this video today. Okay. So this week has been extremely, what can I say? We've had a lot of momentum on the markets, especially with the USD related pairs. But so what I mean by USD related pairs, I've not looked at other USD pairs, but what I can tell from the EURUSD and also the DXY and GBPUSD, we've had quite a massive movements. So that is what I want us to analyze and look at today. So starting off with the DXY, as you can see, price, we had already projected of all the last week's video. We did mention that we may see such a movement coming all the way to this supply zone and then returning to this demand zone, and then we can buy. That was the projected move. But as you can see right now, price did actually go to a projected demand zone, sorry, supply zone. And then after tapping into that supply zone, you can see what happened. Price melted all the way to the downside, breaking structure and breaking structure to the downside. And this is the swing structure on the daily time frame. So we broke structure to the downside, which means right now trend has already changed. We are no longer bullish, we are bearish. So like I always mention to you, let me just denote that trend change. Like we always say, once we break structure, we expect a pullback. So it was just a matter of time, or it's just a matter of time, just waiting out for price to come into a demand zone, and then we can now trade in what? We can trade in those the pullbacks. One of the key areas that I was expecting price to reverse from was these two, what do we call them? The inside bars, yeah? That is where I was expecting price to at least, because as you can see, we did have that massive rally to the upside, and then price took a breather, and then now from these price points, you can see the massive reaction that we got from there. So naturally, I was looking at that zone, and I was like, maybe, just maybe, we may see price actually coming into that zone. But this is the decisional zones, yeah? There are things, or there are zones that we call decisional zones. If you're an SMC trader, I'm quite sure you are familiar with the decisional zone and the extreme zone. So right now, as you can see, we are getting that good reaction from this extreme zone because price totally ignored. It ignored the decisional zone and opted for this extreme zone. So from here, we can expect, I'm not saying that we should, but from this is a good price point, yeah, or this is a good demand area where we can expect that brief pulse taking us to the main threshold of this daily demand range or the daily range, and we should indicate where we have our daily high. That is where we have our daily high. Right now, the daily low hasn't been formed. That is what we are waiting for. So once we get our daily high and our daily low, yeah, then we can expect, once we have that daily high, so it's just a matter of time before we put in that daily low. Well, sorry for that. So it's just a matter of time. Once we put that daily low, then we can just measure where the 50% range and target that. Okay, so for now, just wait it out. So that is the DXY on the daily time frame. That is the DXY on the daily time frame. But just to show you what we had projected last week, and if you haven't watched that video, I'd highly suggest you do so. And I think this was the previous week. Yeah, it's the analysis for as of when. Let's check. Analysis as of 24 to 28 February 2025. So the previous week, yeah. So as we had projected, as you can see, we had projected that movement into this into this supply zone, and then moving back into a demand zone. So that was the kind of like the same movement that I was expecting, because in terms of structure, everything was clear. The structure was bullish. We had pulled back into this demand area, and that is where I was expecting for us to get that continuation move to the upside. But I also did mention that we should follow the internal structure until we are proven otherwise. Okay? I did mention that always, in every circumstance, always follow the internal structure, because that is the immediate structure. Okay? That is where you should be getting your day-to-day trades from. It is the internal structure, not the swing structure. We always trade there, internal structure. And as you can see, the internal structure was maintaining a bearishness. So it was just a matter of following that. But in all honesty, I was expecting for us to continue with that bullish daily swing trend. Yeah. So now if we move to the 4 hours, and by the way, I'm using the indicator called inside bar version 2. It just shows me, because inside bars highlight where we have I like to use inside bars because they do give us good supply and demand areas. So if that is something you would like to incorporate as your trading strategy, I'd highly recommend that you do so. So moving on to the 4 hours. The 4 hours, as you can see, we had maintained that bearishness. And this was one of the things that I looked at. And it was kind of a signal to me that perhaps the trend is about to change. Because as you can see, we broke structure to the downside on the internal scale. So this is the internal structure of the 4 hours. We broke structure to the downside, and then almost immediately we broke structure to the upside. And that is kind of like one of the fast signals to tell me that perhaps the trend is changing. So I was just waiting for the market to tap into this 4-hourly zone, move back into this internal range, and then from probably somewhere around here, we can expect to buy from there. And I think I did mention that. By the way, the reason I don't have those demand areas, the reason why I don't have them in my chart is because once a demand area has been violated, I tend to delete it. But if I can remember correctly, we did have a zone right here. Let me just, for illustration purposes, let me just drop it there. Okay. We did have a zone right there. So this is where I was expecting price to come back to. And then from that zone, we can continue with this bullish trend. But as you can see, price immediately reversed to the downside, maintaining what? Maintaining the bigger order flow. So the bigger order flow, we are looking at the 4-hour swing structure. And normally how I define my swing and my internal, as you can see, compare this price action in between this low and where we break it. Compare that price action with this price action that you can see from here to here. As you can see, what we have, this price action is quite massive. It's quite large compared to what we have here. Okay. So that is how I tend to define my internal. So it's any price movement or price action that is relatively smaller compared to these big swings. So that is what I take to be my swing ranges. This one, as you can see, also this one is quite large compared to this one. So I'm taking that as my swing. And as you can see, we broke structure to the downside. So price has already maintained that bearishness. Okay. So that is what we were to follow. But just to be safe, the internal structure kind of, how do I put it? It is kind of a precursor to what's going to happen on the large swings, because what we normally say is that price is fractal. Whatever is happening on the lower time frames, eventually that is exactly what's going to happen on the higher time frames, more often than not. Yeah. So right now, all we're just waiting for is for price to come into an area of value. Once we tap into that area of value, as we have or as we are seeing happening at the moment, so from here we can expect to buy. Okay, from here we can we should be alert into the price action that we are getting from this demand area. So if we can get a good entry signal, then we should take it. Okay. Why? The reason why, it's because you can see we have that overextended move to the downside, and at some point we expect that we expect a pause, or we expect a retracement. So that is what we are trying to capitalize on, and then continue with the bigger order flow. Remember, the daily has already switched bearish. So right now we are no longer looking for bullish movements to the upside. We are now looking for bearish trends, perhaps to fill these imbalances all the way to the downside. So if we can go back to the monthly time, so if we can switch to the monthly time frame for just a second, there's something that you need to see, and that is the fact that we have this imbalance. Normally, price moves from an area of value to an area of value. Right now, as you can see, we've already tapped into that demand zone, and apart from tapping into that, sorry, why do I keep confusing demand zone? Okay. We've already tapped into this supply area. So once we tap into that supply area, obviously you expect price to move to the downside. But at the same time, I do want you to pay attention to this fair value gap, yeah? So we took out these buy side liquidity or external range liquidity. Once we take out that external range liquidity, obviously, if you trade ICT, I do have some background on ICT, and I do know that once we take out the external range liquidity, price moves to take out now what the internal range liquidity, and the internal range liquidity is this fair value gap right there. So that could be an area of target before now targeting what? Targeting the buy side liquidity all the way to the upside. And that will form my trade analysis or my trade ideas for the coming weeks. So that is the DXY in a nutshell. So to summarize, we've tapped into this demand area. So from that demand area, I should expect, or my expectation is to get some sort of a pullback into these into the 50% of this range. Once we tap into that, then we can target all these what is it called? These the fair value gap that we just identified on the monthly time frame. Okay, so that is it for the DXY. Maybe we can move to the Euro USD. Let's just look at the daily time frame. So as you can see on the daily time frame, trend has already changed. Remember, I was saying previously that some of these zones, remember, we had already marked. Let me just show you. I think this is the analysis. Yep. And also that one. So these are the older analysis. So yeah, let me just deactivate that. That one right there. Let me activate this. So my analysis, my older analysis, if you can watch my videos, I did mention that this was the zone that we are expecting to look at. The other thing that I did mention was that this zone and the fact that we had left these equal highs, those acted as inducement for what? For this zone right there. What I was not expecting, or what I was not anticipating, is for us to get this massive move to the upside. I never anticipated for that. I saw a situation where price comes into this supply zone, and then from there we can continue with the order flow. And the bigger order flow or the larger order flow is to the downside. But as you can see, price moved with a heavy momentum to the upside. All right. So where are we right now, and what has price achieved? So right now, we've already gotten that trend change to the upside, just like the DXY. We've already broken structure to the upside. So right now, we are no longer looking for bearish movements to the downside. We are looking for the reverse of that, which is bullish movements now to the upside. So right now, we are approaching this supply zone. Let me just mark it out. Right now we are approaching that supply zone. And by the way, this is how I analyze my markets. This is how I do my analysis. This is how I do my analysis. So yeah, so this is the monthly time frame, and I just wanted to see whether we had that fair value gap as we identified on the DXY. And as you can see, true to that, we do have that imbalance right there. So eventually, we may see price coming to retest to test out to mitigate these unmitigated supply block. Yeah. So moving on to the daily and going back to the daily, as you can see, price is approaching that that supply block. Let me just mark that out. So that is the daily order block. So my expectation is for us to get that continued move to the upside, to tap out to mitigate that unmitigated or fresh supply block. So now from this area, what we can expect is a movement to the downside to do what? To mitigate the range, the daily range. All right. So remember, I told you price moves in an ABC pattern. So what have we been able to achieve? This is movement number A, where we break structure to the upside. So our expectation is to get that movement number B coming back into these to mitigate this daily demand range, because this is just a bigger range. That is what you need to understand. Yeah, this is just a bigger range, and then now from there we can get the movement number C. All right, so that is what we are trying to capitalize on, a movement back into this demand range, and then continue to buy or continue trading with the bigger trend. And the bigger trend in this case, because we broke structure to the upside, is the bullish. All right. So we are just waiting for price to come back. And what we are trying to capture, or what we are trying to get or capitalize on, is the pullback that we're going to get into this daily demand range. So now from there, we can continue buying these, or we can continue trading with a large order flow. If we move to the 4 hours, let's see what we have. So now moving on to the 4 hours, as you can see, price has already had that overextended move. All we are just waiting for is for price to tap into this supply zone. Once we tap into that supply zone, then we can expect a movement to the downside. Yeah. So in essence, or in short, what we are trying to trade is I normally trade the daily, what I see on the daily. And these are the time frames are just to refine or just to trade now the internals. Yeah. So as you can see, should delete that. As you can see, all the structures are in alignment. The daily structure is in alignment. Both the daily swing structure and the daily internal is in alignment. The 4 hours swing structure and the 4 hours internal structure is in alignment. And now what we're just waiting for is for price to come and mitigate some of these unmitigated daily demand. Sorry, the 4 hours demand zones. Once we mitigate that, then we can expect to trade with the larger order flow. And that is basically it. So the key thing, or the key that we need to understand, the main thing that we need to understand is where we can expect to get those the first B moves coming in from. And that is where the knowledge of supply and demand zone comes in, because a person may be looking to take a trade from here, but I would highly advise against it. And the reason why I would advise against it is because we do have this unmitigated zone. And apart from that zone, what else can we see? We do have these imbalances. So that tells me that this area is acting as an inducement. All right. This area is acting as inducement for what? It is acting as inducement for this larger zone. And even though it seems that we've already taken liquidity to the upside, then this zone that has been created, or these highs that have been created, are now acting as the inducement for the clean zone that we do have up here. All right. So that is acting as the inducement to induce early sellers into the market. Then we take them out, tapping into our zone of interest, and then melting to the downside. So that is the movement that I expect to see. It has to be very, very mechanical. Your trading has to be very, very mechanical. There's some set of rules that you need to see, that I need to see personally in order to enter the market. And right now, everything tells me that this is just inducement. We are inducing early sellers into the market to use them as inducement. And then this is the zone that I should be paying attention to. And of course, if you go back to the daily, of course, it doesn't necessarily have to happen like that. Of course, we can get that meltdown to the downside. Of course, that can happen. Of course, price can come into this zone and, blast through it. And the reason for that is because we did identify the fact that we have these, the fact that we do have these unmitigated daily supply zone. So that could be acting also as a magnet for price. All right. So anything can happen. All we are just waiting for is to see whether we get a reaction from this. And this will be the eventual destination for price. So for now, let's try to see whether we can get a reaction from these STB wicks. Yeah, I call them STB wicks. If we can get a reaction from there, well and good. We can go to the daily. So this would be the refined monthly STB wick. Yeah, the sell to buy. Sorry, the buy to sell wicks. STB is the opposite, the sell to buy wicks. So this will be the refined zone, but this is the overall or the bigger zone. So my estimation is that we get a reaction from there. And if we do not get that, then all we can just wait is for price to come back to come to this zone. Let's just draw that. Is to wait for price to come to that zone, and then from that zone we can sell. And looking at the monthly time frame, you can see that the monthly is quite bearish, and we've been stuck in this pullback, waiting now to do what? To take out this low. The monthly is bearish. It doesn't take rocket science to capture that or to see that it is bearish. So we're just waiting for the market to come back into this zone or to come to this zone, and then we sell. All right. So that is my analysis on the daily. On the daily and the 4 hours of the Euro USD, which is in line with what we saw on the DXY. Okay. So the DXY, the extreme, would be that zone. If you go to the monthly time frame, you can see we do have these extreme demand area. So that could be the final destination for these. Sorry, this is the zone. This should be the zone. Okay. So this is the final destination for price. GBPUSD. Even though I never got this larger move, I do want to mention that I did capture a 3.0, or better yet, this was the move. I did get a 0.1, sorry, a 1.5 return, yeah, on my account. So yeah, this week it wasn't that bad for me. although I would have loved to capture that these bigger movements. I was still happy. This was the other move that I was looking to get into, but as you can see, price never came to my zone. It just was quite bullish. So now if we go to the daily time frame, this is what we are having. The one thing that I do want to mention right off the bat is that GBPUSD, unlike EURUSD, GBPUSD was quite bullish from the start. Yeah, we had seen that. Remember, I called out these. I did mention that we came into these unmitigated daily demand zone, and the fact that the daily swing structure is also bullish tells me that this was just a pullback, and then we can continue with that move to the upside. Yeah, if you go back into the very first videos that I did make in regards to the weekly outlooks, I did mention that GBPUSD came to mitigate this unmitigated daily demand block, and from there we can expect to see those massive explosive moves to the upside. Okay, so the one thing that I do want to also mention is that I did actually get this wrong. I called out these shorts, and the reason for that is because I did see the market breaking structure to the upside. So naturally, from my education, I do know that once we break structure, our expectation is for us to pull back. Now, this pullback, we never know where that pullback will come from. It can come from this zone, it can come from this zone, it can come from this zone. We don't know where exactly that pullback will come from. So my estimation or my projection was that we're gonna get a reaction from this zone. Okay, that was my estimation. But as you can see, price actually pulled back just a little, and then from there you can see the massive explosive move that we got to the upside. So right now I'm looking at this zone. Perhaps we may get a reaction from that zone, or even this zone, because that is also in confluence with the daily DXY zone. Okay, and the reason why we do use the DXY as the confluence is because normally the USD price moves, or the DXY shows how the USD is behaving. Yeah, and if we are projecting that the DXY, let me just go to the daily. If we are projecting that the DXY, as you can see on the GBP USD, because these are the moves that were created by these. You see these two inside candles? These are the ones. Okay, these are the two inside candles. And as you can see, GBP USD has already tapped into that, but the DXY is already reacting from this zone. So that tells me that perhaps we may get some movement from this zone. The fact that the DXY has already tapped into that zone, it tells me that perhaps we may get a reaction from that zone. We may see the DXY buying from that zone. And that tells me that we may see GBP USD selling from this zone. So this is a zone that I'll be looking at. It is an area of value, and it is a zone, or it is one of the zones that I'll be interested in. Apart from that, we do have this zone, and even though it has already been mitigated, I'm quite sure that we may have some orders left to kickstart that bearish move up to the downside. Let me just delete that. Okay. So massive move to the upside. I'm expecting that to hold. I'm expecting to just get a temporary pullback from this zone, and then we continue buying. I'm bullish actually on GBP USD because the larger structure tells me so. And also, as you can see, both the internal and the swing structure are quite bullish. So that tells me that my estimation is that we're gonna get a pullback from this zone and then continue buying from there. And of course, that is not set in stone. We may see price actually coming and blasting through these demands, sorry, this supply zone, and trading from some other supply zones. We may never know. But for now, I'm just looking at that zone as an area of interest. So moving on to the 4 hours. Moving on to the 4 hours, this is what we are having. As you can see, the 4 hours is quite bullish. We did break structure right there. I think this is where we were last week, and I did mention that we should be expecting some movement. So I did mention that we should be expecting price to pull back into this supply zone. Let me just zoom in. So last week we saw price actually breaking structure to the downside, the internal structure to the downside. My estimation or my projection was we get that pullback from this zone, or even from some zones to the downside. But I was looking at this zone as an area of interest. We get that pullback into this zone and then continue selling. But the opposite happened, where we got that pullback and then price came all the way, blasting all the way to the upside. Okay, and we broke trend to the upside, the internal trend to the upside. And I do remember I was kind of caught in a state of confusion, because I was expecting price to react from that zone, and then price came all the way, broke structure to the upside. So now my projection was, or my estimation was, to get that pullback into this demand zone, and then from there I can continue buying. But as you can see, price went all the way to the upside without giving me a chance to enter the market. All right, but I did get into some nice I did catch some nice moves to the upside right around this region. Or was it here? I think it was here. Okay, so now from here, I'm expecting to see that you see price is already consolidating, not really moving anywhere. So that is a good sign. And I honestly want to see price actually moving to the downside from here to mitigate these demand ranges. And then from there, we can continue buying. So I think trading is just a game of timing, really knowing when to enter the trade, really knowing when to capitalize on a trade. And also this zone kind of, it doesn't look that clean of a zone. This is the zone that I'll be interested in. It would be no surprise to see the market actually, or price actually, continuing to push to the upside, targeting what? Targeting that zone. Okay, that is the zone that originated that move. Okay, this is where you see this massive sell-off. That is the zone that was the source. So it wouldn't be a surprise to see actually the market coming all the way to the upside, tapping into that daily supply zone, and then moving to the upside. Now, if we go to the 4 hours, you will see that we do have a very, very clean supply zone. Okay, as you can see right there, we have that clean supply zone. So that tells me that this high will be used as inducement. You can just mark that out. It will be used as inducement for that zone. So it wouldn't be surprising to see actually the market continuing to move aggressively to the upside. Okay, so that is my analysis of the GBPUSD. I'm expecting to see some massive sell-offs, but for mode zone, my projection is from these zones that we are seeing being unmitigated, these unmitigated zones. That is where I can expect price to come into, and then we can expect to see that massive sell-off to the downside. So it's going to be an interesting week next week. So yeah, get ready for that. USD JPY. Let's go to the daily. By the way, I only started trading USDJPY just recently. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Okay, so as you can see, USDJPY. Also, you are looking at a situation where we may see price actually a breaking structure to the downside. Okay, so that was the daily protected low because we had already established that that bullish structure. So right now, as you can see, price has already broken to the downside. My expectation or my estimation is that we see price actually moving now to the downside to mitigate some of these unmitigated fair value gaps. So these melting, the way price is behaving at the moment, we may see a continuation of that coming into the next week. So how do we trade this? All we are just waiting for is for price to come into an area of value, and then we continue selling to the downside. Now, if we move to the 4 hours, sorry, the 1 hour, let's just go to the 1 hour. So we have these unmitigated zones. And the one thing that I do like about USDJPY is that it is respecting zones quite well. So this was an area I had an opportunity to get involved in the market, but I just let it go because I just wanted to assess how these USDJPY is behaving. So now at the moment, what I'm expecting is for price to come back into this zone or to come into this area of interest. And then if that gets violated, then I'm looking at this zone. And I do have some orders placed around this zone, yeah? So either one of these, whichever gives me a good entry, I'm going to take that. So I'm expecting to continue following these, the 4 hourly swing structure. And as you can see, the swing structure is quite bearish. All right. So that is what I'll be following. So at the moment, I just say, just wait it out until we get to some of these zones. And then once we get to some of these zones, we can continue selling to the downside, targeting what? Targeting some of these other zones and also targeting what is just so on the daily time frame. These unmitigated fair value gaps. Okay. So that is where I can say with some bit of confidence, that is where I'm seeing the market coming into. So yeah, so that is my analysis. Also, nothing much to say about USDJPY. It's a clean pair. So just let's just wait it out and see how the price behaves around these areas. So these are the zones that I'm looking to trade from. We do have that. And that is the refined zone. I do want to mention that. The unrefined would be that bigger zone. Okay. So that is the undefined zone. And also this one, as you can see, price had already tapped into it. And that is the refined zone. So those are the two areas of interest that I'll be looking for price to come into. And then from there, we can sell the market. So yeah, so that is it for this week or for coming week. Let me just say for coming week. So yeah, so take due diligence. Normally I do give these trade setups. I'm not telling you to trade my trade setups. I'm just telling you to do your due diligence. This is just a guide. Okay, this is just a guide to just help you see the markets from my own point of view. I'm not saying I'm the best at trading. I'm not saying that I am a guru at this. No, I'm just giving you my 2 cents or in regards now to the price action that I see on some of these pairs. So that is it. Also, if you do want to join my trading channel, my Telegram channel, the link is in the description. Until next time, bye-bye.